Happy Sabbath! Thank you so much for joining us for the Volunteer Park online church service. Here at Volunteer Park, we seek to experience God, love others, and serve in community. And even though we aren't here in person, there are still ways that we can engage with one another in community. One way is to comment in the sections down below by saying your name and where you're from. Another way is to post a picture of yourself on Instagram or Facebook, but make sure to include the hashtag VPCLife. Even though we aren't here in person, I personally believe that God is still working and God is still moving. And so I invite you to open up your heart to whatever God might tell you or impress upon your heart throughout the service, whether through the worship music or through the words of Pastor Peter. Thank you so much for joining, and I hope you enjoy the church service.
Bring your worry, grief, and pain, and every cause you have for shame, and lay it all down, and lay it all down. And when your cares have buried you, and there's nothing left to do, lay it all down, lay it all down at the feet of Jesus, at the feet of Jesus.
Carried on, but your heart was tired. Feared the worst and felt the fire. Lay it all down, and lay it all down. And filled with all those anxious thoughts, and all your doubts become your God. Lay it all down, and lay it all down at the feet of Jesus, at the feet of Jesus. Lay it all down, lay it all down, lay it all down, lay it all down. Lay it all down, lay it all down, lay it all down, lay it all down. Lay it all down, lay it all down, lay it all down, lay it all down at the feet of Jesus. At the feet of Jesus. When we've given up on better days, there are memories we can't erase. Lay it all down, lay it all down. When we've come to fear what we can't explain, and there's nothing here that can ease the pain. Lay it all down, lay it all down at the feet of Jesus.
happy Sabbath. Thanks for joining us today. So I'd like to share something that can be a real advantage to you during this time, and it's something that you already do every now and then, but you may not realize how beneficial it actually is. Let's begin with a word of prayer. Dear Father, I just want to thank you for this moment together. Just ask that you would be with each person wherever they may be watching from, and that you would speak to each of our hearts. We pray in Jesus' name. Amen. So it's been crazy, this whole year has been very difficult for most people. Just came in strong, wildfires, flooding and earthquakes, and Kobe Bryant died, murder hornets, corona, took a bunch of lives, and other people now carelessly, selfishly taking lives of other individuals. It's just been crazy, just a lot of tension right now, and it seems that people are wondering, what to say, what not to say, how to be supportive in their own unique way. And there's just this criticism back and forth, but I felt meaningful. Someone shared this online. I thought I'd pass it on to you. They said, some are posting on social media, some are protesting in the streets, some are donating silently, some are educating themselves, some are having tough conversations with friends and family. A revolution has many lanes, but be kind to yourself and to others who are traveling in the same direction. Just keep your foot on the gas. I thought it was some good insight for us as we're trying to decide what to do. But regardless, there still is that tension. There's a lot of frustration right now, and rightly so, But here's the thing. None of us really know what a person is going through or has gone through. And people are just trying to deal with things, with unusual situations in the best way that they know how. And really, it should be no surprise to us to see humanity continually let us down. We say and do the wrong things constantly, or neglect to say and do things. And as we look at people, we may have certain expectations of them, especially if they claim to believe certain things. They made certain claims about their lives, particularly like Christians. And so we become discouraged, we become disappointed and enraged even by what we see or don't see. And it's absolutely fair. We're human, we should have emotions. At the same time, it's important to know that regardless of hashtags and posts and whether people do what is expected of them or not, there are certain traits, expectations, and actions which are timeless, and these are seen in the character of God. So regardless of whether you're part of the Volunteer Park Church or any organized body, we are Christians before anything, and so our morals, our value system needs to be determined by the one we follow and nothing else. And because of this, it's important to remind ourselves who God is and what He stands for. I like to do that by just sharing a few verses as we begin this morning. The first one is in Deuteronomy chapter 32, verse 4. It says, "The rock, His work is perfect, for all His ways are justice. A God of faithfulness and without iniquity, just and upright is He." Psalm 89:14 reads, "Righteousness and justice are the foundation of your throne. Steadfast love and faithfulness go before you." So these passages remind us that God is just in all He does, all His ways, and everything about Him is just. And unlike us, He can't be unjust by virtue of who He is. And because of who He is and His claim on our lives, He calls us to be, to do, and to stand for certain things. He says in Psalm 82, verse 3, "Give justice to the weak and to the fatherless. Maintain the right of the afflicted and the destitute." Isaiah also shares, chapter 1, verse 17, "Learn to do good, seek justice, correct oppression, bring justice to the fatherless, and plead the widow's cause." And in Micah 6:8, familiar passage, "He has told you, O man, what is good, and what does the Lord require of you, but to do justice, to love kindness, and to walk humbly with your God." What's beautiful is that God gave us this call to action years before there was ever a church. Before we even realized that these would be major issues in society. And what's even more beautiful is that not only did He give us instruction, but He demonstrated how to carry this out, how to go about doing this, and He did it through the life of Jesus. We see this lived out in His value of humanity and by everything that He did. We see over and over that He intentionally sought out the defenseless, He sought out the marginalized. We see this in the stories of him healing the leper in Matthew 8 and his response to the woman caught in adultery. And we see this just time and time again in so many different stories. One after another, we see him pursuing this life, this behavior. And so those who claim to follow him, who are called to do the same, to seek justice, to confront evil, attempt to wrong the rights, all the while giving a voice and listening to those who choose to speak. And whether we realize this or not, this isn't some new idea, but this has always been his purpose and his intent for our lives. And so Jesus here, as he's living this out and with his disciples, and they're attempting to do this also, there was one critical activity that helped them continually recharge, and we see this in the book of Mark chapter 6. So Jesus here he's dealing with just so many different things, accusations by different people, even people wanting to take his life. And at that very moment, John was in prison and was about to be killed. And not just that, I mean, there were so many other things that we will never know that he was experiencing, he was going through. And all the while, he's attempting to just remain focused on his purpose and his mission there on earth. And so in Mark chapter 6, verse 30, it reads, the apostles gathered around Jesus and reported to him all they had done and taught. Then because so many people were coming and going that they did not even have a chance to eat, he said to them, "Come with me by yourselves to a quiet place and get some rest." And so they went away by themselves in a boat to a solitary place. So this is an interesting story, because Jesus isn't like us, all right? For us, we're like, hey, what should we do today? Maybe we should just go hiking. But everything he did was calculated. And I love this passage because Jesus is showing the disciples and showing us that with everything going on in our lives, it's easy for us to just remain in that chaos, right? Because the chaos, it needs to be addressed. But what he does here is, so many other times also in his life, he temporarily removes himself from the noise in order to recalibrate. I think for us who live close to nature, we escape all the time. And so it just becomes more about exercise, or about getting that beautiful, perfect picture to post. And while we're in nature, we're still thinking, right? We're still thinking about events and conversations and those very things that stress us out. And we're just replaying them over and over and over in our heads. And so we're in nature, but we really haven't escaped. And it's all still very loud because we've brought our problems with us. And so this week I received a text from my sister-in-law, Jody, and this group text, she shared a video of this beautiful waterfall, and she put the caption, "Nature, it's good for the soul." As I looked at the video and I briefly reflected on that sentence, I thought to myself, this is more true than we realize. And I started to just think about how many people would benefit from some moments in nature during this time. There's a book called The Ministry of Healing. And there's a section in there that it talks about this story of Jesus and his disciples as they decided to take those moments in nature. It says this. It says, "The Savior's life on earth was a life of communion with nature and with God." It goes on to say, in this communion, he revealed for us the secret of a life of power. Then it goes on to say that there was no one who had so much weight on his shoulders, so much responsibility, who carried such a heavy burden of the world's sorrow and their sins. But it's interesting to hear that Jesus, who was going through more than we will ever experience in our lifetime, he had a secret for a life of power, and it was spending time in nature with God. And so it brought me to this obvious conclusion that maybe it's something that we should be doing more often. Especially now as we're dealing with everything that's going on. So the reality is that we can't go wrong either way, because whether we want to listen to an old book or search online, see what science has to say about spending time in nature, either way, we'll find out, we'll benefit that nature is something that will do us good. One article, the Yale School of Forestry and Environmental Studies, that shares a few benefits. It says this, nature is an antidote for stress. It can lower blood pressure and stress hormone levels. It can reduce nervous system arousal, enhance immune system function, can increase self-esteem, reduce anxiety, improve mood, attention deficit disorder, and aggression lessen in natural environments, which also helps speed the rate of healing. Also, in a recent study, psychiatric unit researchers found that being in nature reduced the feelings of isolation and promoted calm and lifted mood among patients. I know that I'm sharing that with the church more than, not that you haven't heard before, but there's just a lot of tension right now and there's a lot of stress. So why wouldn't we take advantage of the same practices that were so beneficial to the one who we model our whole life after? Now I want to end with a quote from the same book, Ministry of Healing. It says, "All who are under the training of God need the quiet hour for communion with their own hearts, with nature and with God. In them is to be revealed a life that is not in harmony with the world, with its customs or its practices, and they need to have a personal experience in obtaining a knowledge of the will of God." It continues, it says, "We must individually hear him speaking to the heart. When every other voice is hushed and in the quietness we wait before him, the silence of the soul makes more distinct the voice of God. He bids us, 'Be still and know that I am God.' This is the effectual preparation for all who want to labor for God. Amidst the hurrying group of the people and the strain of life's intense activities, he who is refreshed will be surrounded with an atmosphere of light and of peace. He will receive a new endowment of both physical and mental strength. His life will breathe out a fragrance and will reveal a divine power that will reach men's hearts." So what's telling us is that in order to do the greatest good, to have the energy, the zeal, the compassion to fight the cause that we believe God has called us to, we need to take moments to be in nature, to unplug, to recalibrate with God. And so this week, I want to encourage you to try a few things. First of all, I want to encourage you to take some time outdoors in nature, some kind of green space, and aim for at least 2 hours a week, even if you spread it out. Other thing is leave your phone behind. And if you have to bring your phone, put it on airplane mode and only use it for photos or videos. And the third thing I want to ask you to do is take advantage of those private moments in nature where you can connect with God and his creation. I believe by doing this, you're pressing pause on everything else and the exciting, the headaches, the frustrations, the passions, the goals, and you pause all of that in order to rejuvenate and be better adjusted to take on the things God has planned for your life. God bless you.
Crying out for peace, Father, pour out your Spirit
Thank you so much for taking the time out of your Sabbath morning to watch the Volunteer Park Church online church service. If you want to continue to engage with us in community throughout the week, you can comment in the comment sections down below. Or you can join our VPC Facebook group where we'd love to engage and with dialogue with you there. Another way that you can engage with us is to post a picture of yourself and where you watch the church service. Some of you watch it in the living rooms, others of you watch it in the comfort of your own bed, or some of you guys are trying to catch the Seattle sun while it's still out and you're outside watching the Volunteer Park Church service there. Wherever it is, we want to know, so take a picture of yourself, post it on Instagram or Facebook, and make sure to include #VPCLife. We so appreciate the support that you've been giving us throughout this time. And if you feel compelled to give, there are some ways that you can do that by going to the volunteerparkchurchsda.org website and clicking the Give button. We so appreciate everything that you can give. Another way that we would love to engage with you is that if you are in need of groceries, or maybe you're just feeling lonely and you need just someone to talk to, please reach out to us at info@volunteerparksda.org, and the elders and pastor here would love to figure out the safest way that they can help you. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope that you all have an amazing week.